Hey Kylie, we're about to start your balance. We've just run your bioresonance and a couple of interesting things going on in there. And now we're about to get going with your surrogate balance. So enjoy. That's lopsided. That's gonna drive me nuts. That's better. We've got some OCD watchers. Okay. Okay, so thinking about Kylie for me. Thinking about what she wants, needs, would love in her life. And for a moment, just sort of feel the challenges that you can see in her life. I am now 100% Kylie. Now 100% Kylie. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so where do we need to start, little body? Huh, okay. We need to stack in the chakras first. So throat chakra and heart chakra just showed up, which is what the bioresonance showed as well. So is there a priority order we need to do? Yeah, there is. So firstly, we need to pick up the throat chakra. So I'll do the combination with that, which is throat, parietals, hyoid. So throat chakra, little hyoid bone, and parietals. Okay. Let's see whether it's held up for me. And hold up for me. Okay. So the throat chakra is working. It's took us off communicating. So it's hyperactive. And when it's hyperactive, quite often there's just challenges all over the place in relation to saying what you need, saying what you believe, saying what you think, saying what you need. Like, how often is that hard for women to do?
All the time.
Yeah. And it's something that happens, in consultations regularly when I say, well, what is it you want? And it's amazing how often women particularly get tears in their eyes because they've never been asked that. Okay. So do we just need that in there as a circuit? Yes, we do. Okay, so we're just putting that into circuit. Now let's check the heart as well. So we'll put the heart in there as well. So that's heart, lacrimal, and sternum. And hold. Okay. And hold. Okay, so it's in third stage stress. The throat's in second stage stress. Okay. So that's like chronic fatigue of the heart chakra, self-worth, self-esteem, self-belief, self-confidence. And when it's exhausted, it's hard putting yourself out there into the world. It's hard putting yourself into a position where you might be damaged, hurt, traumatized. Or when it can bring up old stuff like, grief, guilt, shame, blame. We just want to avoid it. Okay. With that, we need to pop in the celestial circuit. So that's the connection between the central and governing meridians. Hold. No, that's good. Or it's locking. And hold. Okay, it's overworking, so it's in second stage stress. Is it the caring side, so the feminine side, or the masculine side? It's the masculine side. So once again, there's an over energy trying to stand your ground, trying to have that oomph and energy to do what we need to do. So the masculine side is exhausted from trying to stay switched on all the time and in a place of power and strength and willingness to create an environment where you're getting what you need out of life. It's just exhausted trying to do that. Unresolved stress is one of the biggest things within this circuitry, the celestial circuit. So, because unresolved stress, when stuff is just ticking away in the background, it's exhausting for every cell in your body. And your cells start to believe that there is no possibility of change. So what they end up doing, your cells, is start to create an environment where basically they can cope with stress long term. So it ends up doing things like slowing down our ability to detox, slowing down our ability to have good metabolism, slowing down our ability to have good energy, because it's all about hunkering down in that fight, flight, freeze. And yeah, so it basically ends up really quite screwing with all our energy, metabolism, and ability to have strength and confidence out there in the world, because your body's going, no, stay in the room, don't get hurt again. Hold. Okay, so the celestial circuit's clear, so that's locking and unlocking the way it's supposed to be working now. So let's see what the next priority is for you, Kylie. Can you feel some shifts through there? Okay, let's have a look. So what's the next little priority for this body? Actually, should we look at the bioresonance? So I've just ran the second scan on the bioresonance, and I'll shoot it through later on, but we'll just have a quick squeeze. I want to have a look at things like your thyroid and your adrenals and your hormones, and just see if anything's jumping up and down at us. Yeah, like in the body systems scan, it actually shows the top core emotions. So it shows about 55 emotions that are stuck in your body's tissues. And in here, just thinking about, energy and, this one, in your circulation, there's acute self-confidence issues. There's acute discipline conflict. So that's often when there's things, like I know that I forget to drink water throughout the week when I'm just back to back with appointments. It's something I forget to do, whereas I'll make sure I go have that coffee in my break. So I'll get to the end of the day and I'll go, darn, I haven't drank enough water. So discipline conflict is when we know that there's stuff going on that we are not doing. Yeah, there's chronic self-expression problems, which can lead to self-destruction. So the sort of things we know we should be doing, when we're not doing them, it can just lead us on a bit of a downhill spiral. Yeah, there's just generally acute unpleasant feelings, generally acute fear of the future, sleep conflict. I like that, sleep conflict. That's what my brain does. I have conflict on sleep. Yeah, so there's some sadness, shyness, you know, feeling overly sensitive. Okay, so those are the sort of emotions sort of showing up. Yeah, once again, shyness and sensitivity showing up again. Interesting. So there's there's an acute lack of imagination. So when we can't change things in our life, that's sort of, and your sacral chakra showed up okay initially, by the way. But sacral chakra is that it's that birth, you know. So it's our womb chakra, and it's about the birth of ideas, moving forward, creating the life we want. So when we've got like a lack of imagination, our brain can't even see a different way of doing anything. So sometimes we need to start, like things like the gratitude that you girls are doing, so when you start to be gratitude, that's one thing that when you're not paying attention to it, you don't see it. But then when we have, once we start being grateful for the things that are there, it starts opening up the frontal cortex. And the frontal cortex is the problem solving area. So all of a sudden we start to see things that we don't see before. Gratitude is really powerful. Love it. Okay, so that's the emotional gear. I just want to whip through and have a quick look about the thyroid and adrenals and things like that. Oh, okay, interesting. So there's some hormones, things like estrogen, aldosterone, glucagon, which is your fat burning hormone that your pancreas makes. T4 from the thyroid is a bit of an issue. Okay. Oh, interesting. So there's some jab toxins stuck in the digestive tract. A lot of our food is jabbed as well. Interesting. Stomach and small intestine meridians are showing up as causes. So with stomach being a cause, stomach meridian being a cause of a digestive issue, that's sort of like, because stomach energy is about an imbalance with empathy and sympathy. And it's a yang organ, which means it's out there in the world. So you're giving away too much empathy and sympathy to things that aren't feeding back into you and feeding your soul, your energy, your happiness. And with small intestines, the meridian, it's about that imbalance with love, joy, hate. there's an imbalance in there somewhere. Endocrine system. Oh, right, your pineal gland, which sort of sits in underneath those big lobes of your brain. Pineal gland makes a lot of feel-good hormone. For women, it's incredibly important as we get older because it's involved in immune system stuff. Overseas, people give huge doses of things like melatonin to help with cancer support. Here, it's quite illegal to do big doses. In Australia, we only got it back about 5 years ago. It was illegal for years. With endocrine system, though, reverse T3 is showing up, which means that you're not converting your T4 in your thyroid over to your T3, and it's converting into an inflammatory T3. So it's inflammatory. It basically is pro-inflammation, pro-weight gain, pro-many genetic changes that are driven by inflammatory shifts. Okay, anyway, I think that's enough to get started. That's great. So, yeah, leptin's also showing up. So we've got leptin and glucagon showing up in relation to hunger, weight, that type of thing. So it's a bit, and insulin's out as well. So you've got both insulin and leptin being challenged. I was actually listening to something the other day about insulin and how powerful it is for brain function. It was a really good video by Dr. Eric Berg. He's awesome. He's just got some amazing videos. So, but I'll just quickly make a note. Reverse T3, estrogen, and so endosterone, it's sort of like aldosterone. It's when tummy fat is converting. So anything over 32 inches in the waist, which isn't very much, by the way, anything over 32 inches in the waist when we've got our tummy sucked in, means that the tummy fat is changing our hormones. So when we've got that level, basically we can be converting things like estrogen into testosterone in the tummy fat.
Gosh.
Yeah, and it can mess with things that it can actually switch on our inflammatory hormones 100% of the time. It can switch on our pain hormones 100% of the time. So, you know, tummy fat can end up becoming, when our BMI's up, sneaking up over 30, our tummy fat can be the major hormone producer of the body. So it's one of those things where, well, these days just about every food has got obesogens in them. I heard that term the first time about 5 years ago, and I thought, obesogen, interesting. And basically an obesogen is anything that switches on our ability that makes us store fat. Yay, that's what we want. So, and it's all sorts of things like pesticides and herbicides, lots of GMOs, lots of basically toxins, you know, so a lot of the stuff, you know, from the skies and, you know, our pollutants, you know, sort of with cars and that sort of thing. So a lot of that thing, they're obesogens. We're breathing them in, they're making our fat just sop up toxins. So then we end up with this fat tissue that's really inflamed that basically drives inflammation and toxicity and the ability to gain weight, which is awesome in 2023. It's just what we want. So, with all of that, hold up for me. Hold. 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 Okay. So there's a hidden deep survival pattern in here that we'll clear next. Funnily enough, your adrenals, deep survival didn't show up, but maybe that's because we've got 2 chakras in circuit and your celestial circuit's been calmed down. Nonetheless, it's a hidden deep survival pattern, which means as a mum and a wife and a woman in the world, you've got all these balls in the air and you're doing okay. But deep hidden survival pattern is when you stuff away the stress and you don't think about it and it's just running in the background and your unconscious brain is going, I know life is stressful, but don't think about it. It's like, don't think about the monkeys. So, hidden deep survival pattern. Let's go clear that little baby. Okay, first little area showing up is the anterior cingulate gyrus. This one, this is where we micromanage the way that we put ourselves out there into the world, because our brain wants to be perfect under stress. So this little part of the brain, when you do something that wasn't optimal in the moment, we just keep on thinking about it and kicking our own butts over and over again. That's escape, submission, freeze. Your brain's sick of doing it though. It's wanting to run away because of it. So that's yay. But a lot of these we need to think of in the context of being a cave woman. So, 10,000 years ago, we all lived in tribes of like 20 to, the theory is that we all lived in tribes of like 20 to 30 people. And so from the time you were 2 years old, you sort of knew the person in the tribe who you were going to connect with and live your life with. So when we couldn't make the baskets, when we couldn't pick the berries, when we couldn't, do the tasks that an everyday person needed to be able to do, you weren't going to get that hubby. And then he wouldn't get the meat and he wouldn't get, blah, blah, blah. So, when you put these parts of the brain for survival in context of cave woman days, then it sort of makes a bit more sense than today when it doesn't really matter about a lot of this stuff. But this one very much is about knowing your hierarchy, in your family, in your space, in your community, and wants to feel worthy of that position. So now there's a reticular activating circuit. So this one's low serotonin. And it's because of vigilance. So it's like your body. We make about 90% of serotonin in the small intestine. So when our gut is inflamed, sometimes we're just not making that feel-good hormone serotonin, which is calming and nurturing in the background. So there's low serotonin, and it's creating vigilance. So the nervous system is just constantly that little bit on edge, waiting for the next thing to go wrong. I'm seeing a lot of vaccine toxins in people's digestive tract these days. Very annoying. There was a study a few years ago by some Canadian scientists, and they were basically looking at, and you know when you think of Canadian water and how beautiful it is, and you'd imagine their water supply would be fresh and beautiful and perfect, and they basically found that because they were looking for people who had it was drugs for, say, blood pressure, just say something like that. So they wanted people with absolutely no drug residue of any blood pressure medication in their bodies. And they couldn't find anyone. And so then the researchers thought, well, it must be in the water supply or something. So they went to the water supply and they looked at all the drug residue that was in the water supply that people were drinking. And there was so much drug residue that they couldn't use that as a parameter to do the study because there's so much drug. So then if you think about the jab toxins, is it the same thing? Everyone's peeing into the sewage. It's all ending up doing this whole thing that ends up in, So you wonder at what point that's just going to be everywhere as well. Just a thought. An awful thought, but, I wonder about these things.
Yes.
Okay. So there's another little reticular activating circuit as well. So we'll go see what that one is. Actually, this one's messing with your body. So what I want you to do, and I'll get you to do it for her as well. So I want you to tighten your legs and your toes. So tight, 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 tight.
Like that?
Yep. And relax. And then around your buttocks and, and lower back, tight, 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 tight. And relax. And then your upper body, your torso, tight, 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 tight. And relax. Left shoulder, left arm, tight, 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 tight. And relax. Right shoulder, tight, 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 tight. And relax. And then your shoulders and your neck, tight, 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 tight. And relax. So it's low serotonin again. But this time, so this stuff is stored in your musculature of the body. So that's why we had to activate the muscles. So once again, it's low serotonin, but your body is so focused on the potential for pain or discomfort in your body that it's got this, it's like it's directing attention all the time. So basically we need to calm that down because our body should just be working automatically. We shouldn't be in a position where we're constantly feeling our body and its discomforts. So when we're at that point, sometimes we've just got that focus switched up to 11 out of 10. So it just doesn't relax, which actually creates more tension in the body. Of course, whatever we focus on, we get more of, which is why gratitude's so powerful. Have you actually ever heard of those studies? They've done some amazing studies with gratitude where if we do it once a day for 30 days, people have like higher happiness levels for the next year. Or
Wow.
it's at least 6 months, but I think it was a year. And there was another one which was to do with prayer. And I don't know how long the prayer was for, or I'm not sure of the parameters of that. But they basically found that not only people in a household where there was prayer, all their happiness levels raised, but also the houses either side of them for
Wow.
several
That's
houses.
so good.
The power of, positive energy. Yeah, what a concept. It's good for us. Okay. So once again, let's go back and have another look. Okay. Next little area showing up is called the orbitofrontal cortex. This one is for when you've got conflict in your brain. So it's will I, won't I, love it, hate it, should I, shouldn't I, all of that sort of stuff. So, and actually I should mention the middle monkey as well in a sec. But firstly I'll stack these little guys in orbitofrontal cortex. 2315. And hold out for me. Pain punishment, okay. Some of these survival things can be middle child sort of syndromes, so which is a real thing, by the way, because once again, when you think about, back in cavewoman days, the hierarchy mattered. When you've got a little group or a society where there's only 20 or 30 people for your whole lifetime, it matters. So the middle monkey thing, they did these studies on because monkeys are the same. They live in little groups of 20 to 30 people, or at least they did wherever they did this study. And what they did was had little electrodes on them, and they were measuring the amount of cortisol, stress hormones. And I'll bet you can guess what I'm going to say. The ones right up the top, so the king ones, they had no stress. They knew they were the best. They were just up there. They were like, swinging their, little army arms, and they were just happy as Larry. The ones down the bottom, they also had no stress. They knew they were at the bottom. They knew they were never going to make it up the chain. So whereas it was the middle monkeys, the middle childs, the middle monkeys had the most cortisol and stress hormones. And that's because they were always trying to claw their way to the top and they didn't want to go down the bottom.
That's unreal.
Interesting, isn't it?
Very interesting.
Poor little monkeys. I hope they didn't hurt them. They were probably injectables in hindsight. Tracked and traced. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Beautiful. Okay, so either we've cleared the survival stuff or we just need to do a diffusion. So let's go back and have a look. Oh, okay. We've got to do a tuning fork diffusion. So I might stop and start again because this one you might actually, who knows, if it's really poignant for you, you might want to listen to it a few times. So we'll stop it and come back in a